welcome back to the Girly Girl Bookworm. So today I have for you my June wrap-up part 2. Let's just dive in. So the first book I'm going to talk to you about is The Fifth Letter by Nicola Moriarty. I talked to you about this in my last video where I had started the audiobook and went, breaks, and I never picked it back up again. I just felt like I was not in the mood for this one, and I just decided it was not going to happen. I don't love drug use for no real reason and no real purpose. I mean, granted, there's really no reason for it in my head, but I just couldn't do it. I just didn't want it, so I decided to DNF this one and unhaul it. So this one will be going up on my Pango site very soon. I had also talked to you about reading The Wish by Nicholas Sparks, and I said to you, if it finished like I thought it was going to get 3 stars unless it made me cry, and then it would get 4 stars, and it made me cry, so it gets 4 stars. It ended exactly how I thought it was going to. There's another part that happens towards the end. I was like, I bet you this is going to happen, and it did. So 100% predictable. You could definitely tell how the story is going to end by the second chapter in. But even if a book is predictable, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that I will cry or find it emotional. It takes a real attachment. And so the fact that I was still able to cry my eyes out multiple times by the end of this book, I had to give it that 4th star. But if I was going just predictions and enjoyability kind of alone, it would be 3 stars. The thing that I didn't love about this book too is this character is 15, and some of the things that happen near the end in that timeline just felt so severe for a 15-year-old in a relationship that I didn't love. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars. Definitely not my favorite by him, but solid, and I'm still looking forward to this next book. Whoa, I'm trying to fall over. So when I decided to put down The Wish, When I decided to put down The Fifth Letter, I picked up The Secret Bridesmaid by Katie Burchell. And guys, this was the best decision I could have made. Putting that down and picking this one up was the best thing I could have done for my reading. This book was fantastic. I gave this book 5 stars. This one is basically, if you've seen The Wedding Ringer with Kevin Hart, but a woman and in the UK. So this woman, Sophie, is a bridesmaid for hire. She will be your bridesmaid. She'll be your maid of honor. She will take care of everything for you. She will be there for you when you need to deal with your mother-in-law. She will be there for you when you need to plan a bachelorette party, and nobody is ever the wiser. She's kind of hitting a rough part in her life. Her ex-boyfriend just invited her to his wedding like an idiot, and so she's trying to figure out where she's kind of going in life, and she ends up getting hired by this woman who was a used to be supermodel lady. She is Lady Victoria. She used to be the former It Girl, and now she's a Marchioness. Marchioness? That's probably not how you say that. And she gets hired by her to be her daughter's maid of honor. And her daughter, Cordelia, is like, no, Mom, you're not doing that. You're not hiring friends for me. And Sophie's like, it's not like hiring friends. We're good. This is great. And so Cordelia basically tries to do everything in her power to basically make Sophie quit. And this is supposed to be the wedding of all weddings. And Sophie also comes in contact with Cordelia's really cute brother. And this book just makes me smile, and it's just such a feel-good book. There's such humorous moments in here too. In between chapters, you would get emails or conversation, text messages between the brides or different companies that she was working with. And I laughed out loud. It was such a great read. I'm so glad that I finally picked this one up, and I gave this one 5 stars. I had started a different book. I started Blood Sugar, but then I had to put it down because I had to pick up another book for a buddy read. I was reading Hello Transcriber by Hannah Morrissey with Janelle and Davin. So we had been talking about this book for months. I think I put it like on my April TBR. We were going to read it in April or June or something. I don't remember. We were supposed to, or May. We were supposed to read it. Yeah, over April break, and we didn't get to it. So then we're like, oh, May, we'll do it in May. Never got to it. So this month we were like, we are going to do it. We were Zooming for a book club with Jamie Lynn Hendricks, and she was like, oh, yeah, I just finished Hello Transcriber. And we were like, oh, my God, we are mortified. We've been trying to read this book together for so long. And so we finally picked it up, and I only gave it 3 stars. So this book is very short. We are following a woman. She's kind of in this like unhappy marriage. She wants to be a writer, but that's not working out. So she ends up becoming a transcriber for this police station. And there is basically this drug lord who keeps like selling drugs to people, and like they're like young people and they're dying. They call him the Candy Man. And she kind of gets wrapped up in this case. This writing style was really tough to kind of get into. She, in the very beginning, is just very, very descriptive, and it just wasn't the type of read that I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be fast-paced, and it just wasn't. It's definitely a slow burn mystery. But then it takes almost a turn where it's almost like romance and literary fiction with kind of a mystery with this drug addict guy going crazy. And I just wasn't there for it. I really wanted a page turner. I wanted something that was going to be gripping, and it just wasn't. So I ended up going with 3 stars for this one. I was reading The Swell by Allie Reynolds. She is the same author who wrote this guy, where is she? Shiver. This book comes out in July, and I was reading this for Netgalley, and I gave this one 3 stars. I did not like this one nearly as much as I like Shiver. This one takes place in Australia. One of the characters is going off to Australia because she hears her friend is getting married, and she basically is trying to go get her friend and bring her friend home because her friend is there kind of like on a visa, and she's like, we got to get you home. Something's not right here, and we got to get you home. So she goes to Australia to get her friend, and she ends up looped into this, like, they're almost like a cult-like group of people who are essentially like living on this beach, who are here to like ride the waves and surf and just live off the land, and we're gonna be good. So she kind of ends up like staying there with her friend, and things are just weird, and they're wrong, and they're off. Something that I did not love is in the synopsis it mentions that it's similar to And Then There Were None. It's not. None of the real like intensity, like you are constantly like, you feel like something's wrong because the main character is telling you something is wrong. So you're constantly like waiting for like the clown to jump out of the closet or something. Like you're waiting for something. But a lot of the intensity and the mystery and the real events don't happen until like 75% into the book. And that's what bothered me, because I felt like with Shiver, I feel like we got action pretty right away. Like there's obviously the build up and the eeriness and what's going on, but like you started with stuff pretty quickly. This, I felt like I was like dragging. So even though I felt nervous, and although I felt like the great like scenery and like the setting, I wanted something to happen. I wanted something besides being suspicious of everybody, even though nothing is happening. So unfortunately, I gave that one 3 stars, but that one will be coming out in the middle of July. So if you are interested in that book, obviously go check it out. I read The Lies I Tell by Julie Clark. I read this one on my Kindle. After I finished those 2 books, unfortunately, the Supreme Court decided to come out with their terrible, terrible decision. And my headspace was not good. I was very emotional and all over the place, and I needed a book that was just going to let me escape. I didn't want to pick up my Riley Sager book yet because I wanted to have the right headspace for that one. And so I was like, well, I know The Last Flight was very addictive, so let me give this one a try. So I found this one on Hoopla, which was amazing. And I read it pretty quickly, considering I was like completely not available in the brain. So in this book, we are following two characters. We're following Meg, who is a con artist, and essentially, and we are following Kat, who is a reporter who is essentially out to expose Meg for all of her lies. I really liked this one. I did not like it as much as The Last Flight. I think where I struggled with this book for a little bit was you would get like a then perspective, and then you would get now, and then you would go back to the past, but you wouldn't necessarily go back to the same time as that past, but then you would go back to the current time, which was like the current time that like made sense flow. So like the flow didn't flow as well as I would like to. So it would be like, now, 20 years ago, now, 2 years ago. Like, so it just, the time just like, I would get confused at like, what do we know? What purpose are we here doing? And then once they figured out what what the author was doing, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. This makes sense now. But it took a little bit of time to adjust to that. So I couldn't give it 5 stars, but I did really enjoy it. It's definitely a great con artist story. I also really love Julie Clark. She's a 5th grade teacher in the trenches, just like, well, I'd say just like me, but I've been on maternity leave, but like, just like my colleagues and my husband. And I just, to be able to be a teacher is hard enough. I can't even imagine teaching. And she's a mother, I believe. Maybe she's not. I thought she was. I think she's a mother. Yeah. So teaching, mothering, COVID, and writing books, like I can't even imagine. So I gave this one 4 stars. I'm so excited that we have another Julie Clark, and I'm praying that it doesn't take super long for another book because I just love her writing. She's got such great writing, so definitely check this one out. And then after that, I was finally in the right headspace, and I went back to Riley Sager, and I did The House Across the Lake, and I really enjoyed this one. So this one is definitely one that I feel like people are going to either love it or they're going to hate it. And I am just can't love Riley Sager. Like, he can write a phone book and I would love it. Because I know last year was Survive the Night. Nobody liked that one, and I loved that one. So this one I feel like has been getting mixed reviews of either people are giving it 3 stars or people are really loving it. So I am camp really loving it. We are following this woman who is basically an alcoholic, which I know I don't love in stories. It completely was like, oh my God, we're going back to the woman in the window. And I hated that book, hated that one with a passion. So when I saw that she was an alcoholic too, I was like, please don't do this to me. But I was able to look past it because I understood why she was drinking. And I feel like the thing is, she always knew her drinking was a problem. Other people always knew her drinking was a problem. Unlike Woman in the Window, where I feel like she was just drinking and 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 drinking. And nobody cared. Nobody knew. She didn't even care. And I feel like in this one, like, there's an awareness about it that made it less of a problem for me. So in this one, we are following her. She is basically trying to detox at this house on the lake. She is an actress. Her mother is a very famous Broadway star. And so she has been in the limelight for really negative reasons. Her husband died a year ago at this lake, and her mom was like, go to the lake, get out of the press for like a month, go. And across the lake, these other like really kind of famous people like move into this lake, and she is able to see into their house. And of course, you guessed it, like I said, like Woman in the Window, she sees things that she thinks are sinister, and it goes from there. And this alternates perspectives of a then and a now, and I was so captivated, and I was so engaged. And there, like I said, there's a twist in here that people will either love or hate. It reminded me of a twist that I've heard before, and I think this one was way better done. I will say, too, what I think speaks volumes for this book is the fact that I have not been reading physically at all. I read Hello Transcriber physically, another book that I'm about to show you physically, and this one physically. And I think that's it for the entire month. Oh, and I read Hide physically. So essentially, out of all the books I've read this month, I've only been able to read 4 physically. And most of the time when I read books physically, it takes me days because, well, 2 kids, it's just not possible anymore. And I read this all in one day. So I feel like that speaks 100% volumes, and it wasn't like I was up until like midnight. Like I finished this by like 8:30, and I didn't even start it right when I woke up either. So like I think that speaks volumes to his writing, that it's so addictive and you just can't get enough of it. And like I said, I gave it 5 stars. So before all of those even started, before Hello Transcriber even started, I was reading Blood Sugar, and then I put it down to read my buddy read, and then I kept it down so that way I could read Riley Sager's new book. And so when I went to go pick this up, I said to my husband, I don't even really want to read this anymore, which is so sad because I was so looking forward to this book, but I finally finished it. I finished it this morning, and I'm so glad I finally finished it. I gave it 4 stars. This is about a woman who has killed people in her past. She's killed 3 people, but now she's being accused of actually killing someone, but she didn't kill that person. So it's hard to talk about this one without like spoiling it, because I liked how it just kind of like revealed itself. I will say that this was not as intense as I was expecting, especially being like, oh my god, she's killed 3 people. Like I was just expecting this like and she is crazy. Like in the beginning you're like, oh my god, like this girl's psycho, and then like you start to have like sympathy for her as a character, and it was interesting. It was not the journey I was expecting to get from this book, but I still enjoyed it. But I wanted something sinister. I wanted something really crazy. I wanted the crazy story. But I did like this one, so I gave this one 4 stars. I did DNF another book. I DNF'd The Force of Such a Beauty. This one, I DNF'd around like 30%. I got this one through Netgalley. This was another book that I didn't actually request. It was an email sent to me like, you might enjoy this book. You're automatically approved. And I was like, sure, cool. And the synopsis sounded great. So I was like, this is wonderful. I'm going to read this one. It comes out July 19th. And this is about a woman, and she is basically this like elite runner. She is from South Africa, and she is fast, and she is award-winning, record break-setting. She just won a gold at the Olympics, and then she goes to run. She's practicing for the next Olympics, and she just has the accident of her life. And it basically derails her entire plans for her life. And she ends up meeting Finn, who is like this prince, and they end up having this relationship. When we first meet her in the prologue, we meet her as she's running away. She is married to him, and she is running. She's leaving her kids, and it just sets this scene of such intensity. And then it derails. The author is very flowery, and she's very descriptive, which is great. You want that when you're reading something. You want it to be able to describe. You want to really feel like you know what's going on. But then it would just like glaze over complete like things. There was like lack of development. Like they went from like not knowing each other to like knowing each other kinda to let's get married, and but like not quickly. Like it was like slow but fast. It was just too disjointed for me, and I couldn't do it. I was like, I love the idea of this plot. I love what's going on. Like, but then it just got too they had barely kissed, and out of nowhere there was a scene, and it was like we were kissing, and I bit his lip, and to the point where he like bled, and then he dripped the blood into my mouth or something. And I was like, wow. It just that line right there. This was not a romance book either, so that's why I was like really thrown off, and I had to DNF it, and I'm really, really sorry. And then I'm currently listening to the audiobook for Death at Greenway by Lori Rader Day. I'm hoping to finish this one before the month is over. Today is actually June 28th, so we've got the 29th left and the 30th, but the 30th I am doing a date day with my husband, so I don't think I will be reading that day, so that's why I'm filming this early. But I'm hoping to potentially finish this. I'm 30% in. We are following this nurse who has been working for the war, and she's just not a very good one. So they're like, well, if you want to re-earn your stripes, pretty much, you're going to go with these children, and like with the children that are trying to go out to the country, so that way they're not there at war. And they end up at this house, and this house is Agatha Christie's house. It's good so far. I'm really liking it. Like I said, I'm about 30% in. I'm hoping to get this one done. But yeah, that's that. I don't have anything else started because I just DNF'd that Kindle read, and I just finished Blood Sugar this morning. So I will tell you anything else that I've started in June in my July wrap up. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you've read any of these books down below, if we have any similar opinions, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, everybody.